Okay, guys, it's 6:30, so we'll get this thing started. Adam's been very generous with his time. So I'm going to turn it right over to him. He's here to talk to us about Meshcore, more importantly, the Dixie mesh system. And I just learned we now have traffic traveling from Southern California all the way up to the Wasatch Front, which is super exciting. And so um, I think this is a positive thing for ham radio here in Southern Utah. I'm going to stop talking. Adam, it's over to you. W0AKO, Adam Cartwright, take it over, sir.
Great. Thanks very much, Brett. And thanks to the Dixie Amateur Radio Club for the invitation to present on the Tech Time this month. Really enjoyed our time together last week on our presentation last Wednesday night at the club meeting. If you're able to be there, it was exciting to see, standing room only, and just the excitement and interest that we have in Meshcore and these new, LoRa radio technologies. So I did not prepare slides for you tonight because I want to have some Q&A time, but I do have a bit of content here. Hang on one second. Let me get oriented now that I'm sharing my screen. Okay, so I've got a few things I want to talk about tonight, and they're pretty simple, and then we'll have lots of time for Q&A, but really I want to just kind of talk about what's really hot right now, which is this new connection that we have into northern Utah, into southern Nevada, and even up into southern Idaho. We'll talk a little bit about how that was made possible and what that means for the immediate term and the long term. We'll talk about managing notifications because I've had a few people say, hey, you know what, my node is just going nuts now that we've got all this traffic, and how can I make it quiet again? And so we'll talk a little bit about how to manage notifications in the best way. We're going to talk about managing paths. Like there's something special about the ability to be able to route your messages in an efficient way. The network does it automatically for the most part, but sometimes you want to be very deliberate in how you send your messages, and we'll talk about that. We're going to talk about a concept called path hash bytes, and I'll explain that if you're not familiar with it when we get there. And then we'll talk about using the mesh analyzer and other tools on live.dixiemesh.com, as well as on the mwmesh.com website, and some of the tools that are there. So that's what I have planned to go over, and then hopefully that'll answer a ton of questions that people have on their minds already, and then we'll also have time for other questions. So let me switch over my sharing to a different screen here, and let's talk about how we made this connection now to, there's the window here, to northern Utah. So this is just showing a map that's showing a couple of sites in southern Utah here, and how this connection was made. You're very familiar with, we added Utah Hill over this past week or two, and some work had been going on for that for several weeks. We finally got the repeater up and operational and working, and Utah Hill is now giving us great access across Washington County and in many locations, as well as down into Las Vegas and even further. And it's pretty exciting to see that connection get made. Then over this past weekend, some of our friends from northern Utah came down and drove their side by sides up into the mountains and put up a couple of new repeaters, and really grateful for their effort to expand our network. And what they did, they put repeaters up in Cedar City, and that allowed some connections to go further into Cedar City. But also they updated some of the repeater site in Frisco Peak, this area here. And Frisco Peak has a pretty solid connection to Utah Hill. And so via both Tokerville and Cedar City, but also via just Utah Hill up to Frisco Peak, we can now make a connection all the way over to Levin Peak. And from Levin Peak, we get into northern Utah. This is about, from Utah Hill to Levin Peak, 230 miles. So round trip, 460 miles of RF. And then it takes about, to do a trace path on that, just less than 4 seconds to go round trip. But from Levin Peak up north, there's several different backbone repeaters, and there's a lot of repeaters up in northern Utah and southern Idaho that allows you to connect and make direct connections, DMs, and group conversations with all our friends up north. I'll show one more view of this if we add in just a couple of additional repeaters in here, such as the Tech Ridge repeater, Tokerville repeater, and Cedar City repeaters that expand our coverage in Washington County as well. Of course, this is not all the repeaters we have in Washington County. We have well over 40 repeaters now on the air that are doing a great job. But I just highlighting a couple of them that I've used to make pretty solid paths up to some of our friends up in northern Utah, going through Levin Peak up into Eagle Mountain and Lehigh, up to Layton Promontory Point, Willard Peak, and even up Scout Mountain to get up into the southern Idaho area. Now, there's other paths that these messages will follow, not just these repeaters that I've highlighted, but these are the ones that I've been playing with and been able to trace and get really good results on. So what this means, right, for us is you're going to see traffic that seems somewhat random because you're not always going to get a full conversation in like the public channel and some other channels. And the reason for that is even though the network's very robust and reliable, we really only have this connection into Frisco and then up into Levin Peak. So it's kind of like a small pipe with a lot of traffic that's trying to go through it. And because of that, there's not everything makes it all the way down into southern Utah or vice versa, except for your direct message traffic, right? That's going to directly send through a particular pathway. But that's why you're starting to see messages drop into the public channel or maybe some of the other hashtag channels that you're familiar with. If you're talking to people locally, you'll see quite a bit of local traffic. It gets through just fine, and the conversations can be had. But if you're trying to talk to somebody who's down in Las Vegas, or because that one's only going through Utah Hill right now, or somebody who's in northern Utah, southern Idaho, you might find a DM or a direct message is more reliable and successful than group chats, just because of the way that we're set up right now. But this is just the start. This is just the beginning. Like, we're going to find more repeaters that will come online, more pathways that'll give us access out into the larger mesh, and it's, to me, it's just super exciting to see that connection come through. For our local mesh, we've been using the hashtag Dixie Mesh channel for local conversation for Washington County. And it's not limited to Washington County. Anybody can drop into there from anywhere that's connected to the mesh network, of course. But it's really reliable for everybody that's in Washington County in our local mesh network. So feel free to drop in there and have local chats and conversations, and feel free to jump into the other channels as well. Just know that you might see, like in the public channel, park conversations here and there and wonder why they're not answering you. One of the things that's going to happen as we grow our mesh network is we're going to want to start scoping some of the traffic in regions. And what that means is Meshcore has the ability to put a regional scope on particular channels and even at the repeater level, so that repeaters or channels only send traffic for a particular scope that's been configured. So imagine a scope being southern Utah or northern Utah or southern Idaho, or different subsets of that, or even macro sets of that. And we'll have more guidance for us. Luckily, we are learning as we go, but we're not forging the way. There's a lot of other larger, more mature mesh networks on Meshcore that have been experimenting with scope traffic. They're learning kind of the tricks of the trade. They're also identifying, some of the challenges that comes with scope traffic. And so we'll take their lessons learned when it's time for us to adopt those types of things. So I'm excited about that. All right. I want to move on. We'll come back to this and answer some questions in this space, but I want to get to a couple other things here in just a moment. Let me share this cool window here and talk a little bit about managing notifications. So here's the Meshcore app. This is the official app. There are other apps that you can use on your phone or your tablet or your computer. But this is the official app, and so I'll work from this tonight. You'll notice that, in the public channel, you're going to get a lot of traffic in there. It's going to be a lot of messages. Same thing with channels like weather or test, especially. Everybody loves to go in and send their test messages and get responses from the bots that are out there. But you might not want your phone to go off, or your device to beep at you or go off every time a message drops in there. And so what you can do is set your notifications. So just in the app itself, you see the 3 dots on the right-hand side for any particular channel. You can click on that and you'll see you have this option for notifications. If you tap on notifications, you're given 3 options. You can have a notification for every message that drops in, mentions only, or none. Mentions only would be if somebody actually mentions your device name. So if they put an @ sign in the name of your device, it'll actually give you an alert there. Or maybe you don't want any notifications for a particular channel. You just want to go in when you want to go in. And you can set it to none. So I recommend that you go through any channels that you have configured and make some decisions on which ones you want to be notified on and which ones you don't. The Dixie Mesh channel, for example, I want notifications in there because I want to see the local traffic and have conversations. And so I have it set to all messages. But for other channels, such as the test channel, or let's say war driving, for example, I don't really want any notifications. I don't need any notifications from this channel. I don't really need this channel, but it's on there because I do war driving. And I'll talk about war driving a little bit later for those of you that are unfamiliar with that. But I have this one set to none. So that's how you set notifications. That way you can not be bothered in the middle of the night or when you don't want to hear your phone go off, but you can get the right notifications at the right time. All right, let's move on to the next one here. Let's talk about paths. So
never mind.
All right, there we go. Sorry, somebody was unmuted there. Okay, so managing paths. When you get a message in any of these channels, one of the things that you can see is the path that the message took to get to you. So right here, if I'm in the test channel and you see here's some traffic that came in recently, here's a message that traveled 7 hops before it got to me. If I want to see the actual path, I can long click or long press on the actual message itself, and it brings up this message actions option. And when I get into message actions, I can do a couple of things. I can view the message paths, and when I open that, it will show all the different paths that message took to get to me. And so in this case, you see, I actually heard it from 3 different repeaters. That same message got to me because 3 different repeaters sent that message out. Utah Hill, Desert Canyons, and Tech Ridge. Which repeater do you think is the closest one to me? Well, obviously it's going to be Desert Canyons with this very strong signal here. And you can see that that message took 8 hops to get to the Desert Canyons repeater. And I can click on that and I can see all of the different hops that message took. So it started the check virtual. I think this is a bot, and it sent the message through the Leighton Raptor repeater, through another repeater that I don't know what the name of it is because my device hasn't discovered it. The Eagle Mountain, Levin, Frisco, Utah Hill, all the way to Desert Canyons, and then to my node, AKO base. So that's how you can see the path. And this is really helpful at times when you want to better understand the nature of the network, how traffic is moving through the network, how you might want to send a message to somebody that's in that area, or to that exact person who sent that message. If I click on these other repeaters, it's going to be a very similar story of how that traffic began, but at some point it's going to diverge, and you see here it gets to Utah Hill. So some other tools or apps, I use one on the iPhone called Meshcore 1. It has a very similar feature, and I think all the different apps do, where you can see the different paths that a message takes. So here we have Keith, who sent a message about this particular meeting that we're on right now. I can long click on that message, or long press on that message. I can say view message paths, and I can see it came through my local repeater, and then it took 4 hops to get there. He sent the message. It went through Sugar Plum up to Utah Hill. It actually then went through David's home repeater and to Desert Canyons. That's kind of an interesting hop to me. I didn't expect that to happen because Desert Canyons and Utah Hill have a very strong connection back and forth. But that's cool. This is the way RF works. And then it finally got to me. So when I'm sending a message and I want to do a specific path to somebody, so let me look here. I was trying to guess somebody I wanted to send a message to. I'm just going to pick a random. Well, it's because I've got mostly repeaters in here. That's what I've got going on, this guy. So I'm going to send this to Mitch Home Wi-Fi. You'll see if I send this message, if I go and type a message and I send it, the path it's going to take is going to be a flood message because I don't know the path to get to Mitch. But I actually do know relatively close to how to get to Mitch. And this is helpful in cases where maybe my flood messages are not being delivered. I'm not getting an acknowledgement back on a flood message, or maybe I just know that I need to use a specific path or want to use a specific path. I can click the 3 dots and say set path. And here I can actually choose the path that I want to use. Now I'm going to talk about hash bytes in just a minute, but I'm going to set this to 2 bytes. That should be kind of the default that we all set our repeaters to. And I'm going to go ahead and click the plus sign. And when I tap that plus sign, I've got all the repeaters that my device has discovered in this list. And I'm going to pick the ones that are closest to me that I know the path of. So I'll choose Desert Canyon's repeater as the first one there. And then I think I want to go through Toker Raptor. And then I probably want to go to a Hurricane repeater, and I'm just going to pick North repeater here, and I think that'll probably get to Mitch. Maybe not. I could look and get very specific, but I'm guessing here. So you see, I now have a path for my message to go through. It'll leave my device. It'll go to Desert Canyons. It'll go to Toker Raptor. It'll go to the Hurricane North repeater, and then hopefully it would deliver to Mitch. Now, I don't think Mitch has my device here in his contacts list, so even if I sent this message, it wouldn't deliver. But I'll just say hi anyway, and we'll see it delivered. So I must be in his book. Boy, I feel pretty honored. So thanks, Mitch, for letting me be there. And you'll see the path was 3 hops that it took. So that's how you set a path for sending a message. And just again, you can set that path from the 3 dots on the menu here, or inside of a message. Hey, thanks, Mitch, for the response. You can set a path right here with these 3 dots. You set your path, you put the path in, you use the plus sign to select from the list of repeaters. It gets added, the repeaters get added in the order that you tap them or click them. And once you have them in the right order, and let's say I made a mistake, I no longer wanted Toker Raptor, I could click the 3 dots and remove it from the path. I could add new ones to the path. I could even type them in here if I knew what the hash was for the path that I want to make. All right, that's how we manage paths. Now, hopefully things are starting to come together in your mind about how some of this works, both from our previous presentation and you're experimenting with this. Let's go to the next thing I want to talk about that ties right into this, which is path hash bytes. So if we look at this message that we just had with Mitch, and we look at the Mitch's contact information, everybody has a public key. And that public key, as we talked about on Wednesday, is what is necessary for me to be able to send you a message. I need your public key so that I can encrypt that message and send it to you. Every repeater on the system also has a public key. Now, that public key starts to form a very important thing, which is our path, and the hash to the path, which is the actual so many characters of that public key. So you see here on the Desert Canyons repeater, it's D71D are the first 4 characters of that public key. That forms the hash for the path. And so when we were in here and we set Mitch's path to these characters from these repeaters, this is the path hash for the public key for each of the repeaters that are in the path that we're using. Now, every hash or every public key is quite long, and it's used for our public key, private key encryption, but it's also important because it allows the network to route messages to the right place. A 1 byte path hash has 2 characters in it. So if I changed this to 1, you'll see it would just be 2 characters. You see it just 2 characters. Now that's a 1 byte path hash, and it allows up to 64 hops. The problem that we have in our network is we have a lot of nodes. We have a lot of repeaters. And although the network itself can handle a path hash of just 2 characters and a 1 byte path hash just fine, it makes it difficult for users of the system to accurately define how the path is going to go, which repeater they want to access, because many repeaters may share the same BO path hash for the first 2 characters. So instead, we recommend using 2 bytes, which is 4 characters. So if I select that same node, you'll see it's B091. So now I have 4 characters in my hash, my path hash for each repeater. The consequence of that is it limits the number of hops from 64, and now it cuts it in half to 32. This really is not a limitation, guys. We're well below that. I can send a message to Mr. David Gilmore up in Shelley, Idaho, from way down here on the Utah-Arizona border in less than 9 hops, really. That's a long ways to go. So we've got a lot of room in just 32 hops. 2 byte hash is really makes it easier to address your repeaters, to keep track of them. It makes it easier for our software that observes the network to be able to keep track of all the repeaters. And it is what we recommend that you set your repeaters to. You can set your companion also to 2 bytes. It's not necessary, but it can be helpful for you and for others if you want to do that. And I'll show you how you do that. For a companion, you click on the gear icon, and this today is in the experimental settings section. And right here you see it's set to a 1 byte path. I could go ahead and change that to 2 bytes if I wanted to. So it is in the experimental settings section today. I've read online that they're moving that out of experimental settings in an upcoming firmware release, but I don't know when that is. Doesn't matter. It's just, here's the recommendation: set your repeaters to 2 byte path hash, and use your companion. Make it 2 bytes too if you want to. It makes it convenient. Now, there is a way to do this on a repeater that you can do it without going through the setup configuration, and that's to do it in the console. And I'm not going to take time right now to get into the console, but there's a very simple command that you can type and just ask me about it if you need help. But you can run the command set path.hash.mode --1 to select 2 byte path hash. All right, it's enough on path hash. Let's talk about something else that's really cool, and then we'll get into some questions. I want to share this screen here, which is our analyzer tool for Dixie Mesh. This is at live.dixiemesh.com. What we're seeing here, we're on the packets, and we're seeing live traffic as it comes into the network. And how are we doing that? Well, we have what are called observers. You can look at this tab here called observers. We have 12 observers on the network, and these observers, basically, they listen to traffic that's going through the air, and they record it and they upload it to this website, a particular broker that holds the information, and it displays on this website. These observers are spread out across different locations. It's super helpful to have observers out there in across the network so that we can see how the network's performing. We can make good decisions about where we need more repeaters or where we're having trouble with traffic. But this is not a requirement of the network to operate. Remember, in the case of an emergency, we're going to lose the internet, and or we could lose the internet. And if we did, the network would operate just fine without these observers out there, because we wouldn't be going to this website anyway. So the network will operate just fine without observers. They're a one-way communication. But what's fun about the analyzer tool is that you can go ahead and sorry, I'm going to mute you there, Dan. You can see the traffic live as it goes through the network from the observers, and you probably saw this the other night, or maybe you've been out to the website. You can actually see the traffic move throughout the network. Now, on the DixieMesh.com website, we're only showing traffic from observers that are within our network, our Dixie Mesh network. Although you'll see traffic that's coming from the north, the observer, they have to be picked up by an observer in our area in Washington County right now. We don't have any observers in Cedar City yet. Hopefully we'll get one there, and we'll get one down in Mesquite as well, so we can see what's going on there. I've got one built to go on Utah Hill, so we can see some more traffic there. But you can see all the network, all the traffic that's coming into our network and what's happening in our local network. Now, you can go a step further, and you can go to the attack.mwmesh.com website, and this is the Intermountain West, I think that's what they're called, or they used Mountain West Mesh group. Awesome folks up there in northern Utah. They've got a great website that you can go to and learn more about their network and what they've got going on. They've got a lot of great instructions on their website, but on their analyzer tool, you can go in and you can see all the traffic that's across the network. And so here we're seeing all of southern Idaho. You can see all of northern Utah, and then our traffic here in St. George and Washington County, and then down into Las Vegas as well. We don't have any observers in Las Vegas, so this traffic is being sent from observers up here, but we're hoping to get some observers put in Las Vegas as well pretty soon. So how do you work this website? How do you get here? This is live.mwmesh.com. I'm sorry, I thought it was attack, but that must have changed at some point. It's live.mwmesh.com. And you could just go, you can click on packets to see the actual packets themselves of traffic. You can analyze these. If you click on them, you can see details about that packet, how it was addressed. You can't see the contents of the message. It's encrypted unless it's something that's going to a public channel. We talked about that on Wednesday. Public's public. It's a well-known encryption key. But you can get some information about how the network is performing. And then what I love is the live view where you can see information. Now there's some tools here that are really helpful beyond just the live map, and that would be to look at the nodes. Let's say there's a repeater out there that you want to send a message through, but you don't have it in your contacts list. You can actually use the nodes list if you know the name of the repeater, or if you know the path hash. So let's say my local repeater I know is D7. It starts with D7. It's a Desert Canyons repeater, D7, D1. I could click on that if I didn't have that in my contacts list, but I wanted to send a message through this repeater. I could click on this. I could go to details, and here I've got the QR code for that particular repeater. I could go ahead and add that. I could scan it and add that to my contacts list, and now I'd have that in my contacts, and I could send a message there. So that's just a little helpful a way of getting repeaters that might be missing in your list. The other thing that's really helpful, they have a tool here, which is the path analyzer or path inspector. And you can actually put paths in here. And here's a particularly long path. This one you can see goes up from Desert Canyons to Shelley, Idaho. And I was playing with this the other night, trying to see what is the most efficient path that I can take to send my messages. And it gives you a score for the particular path. And you see this score is 0.806, which is a pretty good score. I can look at the different hops and see where I've got some weak points here, and some of them I might choose a different repeater. Other ones I can't do anything about. I can look at it on the map and see here's the actual path that it's going to take to go all the way up there. And it will tell me what the overall distance is, 804 kilometers. Yeah. So another great tool that's in here, and that's under Tools, Path Inspector. Okay. A couple of other things to bring up, and then I'll open for questions. You've heard us talk about war driving. What we're talking about when we're talking about war driving is using the meshmapper.net website. Particularly for our region, it's sgu.meshmapper.net. And there's an app on your phone, whether it's Windows or iOS, doesn't matter, or Apple. It's they have it on both platforms. It's called Meshmapper. And you run that app, you connect to your node, to your companion, and it sends a ping message out as you drive, or walk, I guess, if you want to war walk. And it will send a message out and try to identify what repeaters are available from that particular location. And it will record it in its database so that you can actually color the map and see these green areas are where we've got good connectivity, red areas where we have gaps in coverage. And it changes over time, and so it's a good thing to always be updating as we add repeaters and move things around. But it's really helpful to be able to get a good sense for, again, where there are gaps in the network and things that we can do to improve our overall network. That's called War Driving. That's on sgu.meshmapper.net. And they have a game that I just learned about recently called Mesh Wars. And in Mesh Wars, you can actually take over territory. And I haven't figured it all out yet, but it looks fun. So if you want to try meshwars.com and have fun while you're war driving, you can do that. All right, the last thing is weekly net on Wednesday nights. The Mesh groups do a weekly net, and what you do is you go to the hashtag weekly-net channel, and you just go ahead and put your name and location in there anytime between 5 p.m. and midnight, and you get counted for the net. And that's another way that you can start to experience Meshcore, see who else is operating on Meshcore, and participate in the local network. All right, I've said a lot, and I'd love to answer some questions if you have any.
Hey Adam, this is Max, W7MHB.
Hey Max.
I just got my companion yesterday. How do I add a contact to my device?
You bet. So right now on your app, when you open your app up and you've connected it to your node, in the settings, there's some configuration that you can do in this area called contact settings. And in contact settings, it asks you a couple of things. Auto add all is what this one is set for. And that means anytime it hears an advert from somebody else, it's going to add that into the contacts. So that's kind of a nice way to get started. But at a certain point, you're going to say, hey, I don't need any more contacts, or I have too many contacts. You can only have 350 contacts. Some devices is less, but most of them are 350. And so you might decide, hey, I only want to add repeaters, or I only want to add chat users. So you do have flexibility here. You also have the ability to say, hey, I want to overwrite the oldest contacts in my contact list. So you can click this, and then when your contacts are full, it'll look at it and take the oldest ones and remove them off. You can say, hey, listen, anybody who's more than like 10 hops away, I don't need to add them. They're way too far. I'm not going to talk to them. You can do that if you'd like. There's different ways you can do that. Now, Otherwise, if you need to add a contact, you can do it by hand by clicking the three dots and saying add contact. And here you need to do a couple of things. You can scan a QR code if somebody's given you their QR code. That's helpful.
Can I interrupt 1 second? I
Yep.
think the screen that I am seeing, and I'm not sure if it's everybody else, I'm seeing a different screen than what you're actually.
Thanks for telling me that. Yeah, I apologize for that. I'm really glad you mentioned that. I switched over to another screen and didn't switch the sharing here.
Yeah.
All right. So settings, scroll down, contact settings, options. So those are the options I was talking about. Auto add all, etc.
That's how mine's set right now. But if I wanted to add, for example, you.
All right. So for me, if you're going to add me, you would go, you click on the settings, not the settings, but the three dots.
Yes.
Click add channel. Add contact. I'm getting ahead of myself there. And then you would need my public key. You can get that by scanning a QR code that I provide you, right? My QR code. Or you could add my public key. If you had that public key, I could give that to you. I could give you a link that would add that in there. And that's how you would add a contact. Now, since you don't have me, the easiest way for you to get to me and connect with me is actually if I send an advert out, and I could just send an advert, and then you would get that advert and it would go into your box. I actually don't message from this particular device very much, so I'll send an advert from my actual phone.
Adam?
Yeah.
Hey, on adding contacts, I'm sorry, I don't know. It's double talking here, but when you go to add contacts and you say scan, go back to scan a QR code.
Yep, okay. Scan QR code.
Okay, when you click on that, someone could do a screenshot of their of that code that you do, and then up in the upper right-hand corner, that right there, you touch that, and then you just import that picture, and it automatically adds them.
That's a great tip. Thank you for sharing that. Another great way to get a QR code into your system if you don't have the ability to scan it, but if you have the picture, you can take that picture and you can just click on that and import the picture, and it'll have it there.
Okay, so for example, I'm under the Dixie Mesh channel right now, and you had something from your AKO_pocket. It was just a message that went to the Dixie Mesh. Is there any way I can take that and add you as a contact?
No, you actually can't do that because you don't have the full public key that is sent there, unless I happen to send, my contact information into the mesh network. So that's really the only way to do it, and I'll do it. So hopefully you'll get that message.
Okay, I just got that.
And from that, you could actually add my contact.
Okay.
But that's kind of an example of where I've, sometimes I'll use the live.dixiemesh.com web analyzer and go into the node section and put a repeater or a contact name in there and look it up, and then I can scan that QR code from the screen. And it makes it easier to add a contact.
Because mine was set up to import all, and so I'm sitting at 100 and where am I? I've got 120 contacts right now. So I see that you're in there now from the one that you just sent. But really, until it's almost like you have to get somebody's contact outside Meshcore, unless they do a flood or something, right?
Yeah, unless they send you their contact. You have to have their contact in your system in order to decrypt their message. That's the reason why. So you do have to facilitate the transfer of that contact some way. You can do it over a flood or an advert, whether it's flood or zero hop advert, but you can do it over an advert. You could do it over just a message like I just did in the channel. But you do have to have that public key. Yep.
Okay. All right. Thanks.
Great question. Other questions people have?
I see Dave there has got his hand up, the K6WDE.
Hey, Dave. Oh, you're on mute. Go ahead and unmute.
There we go. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you great.
Hey, Dave, thanks so much for all this. This is information overload, like drinking out of a fire hose, but it's a hell of a lot of fun, and I appreciate all the work you've been doing. I see LDS Prepper online as well, David Gilmore,
Yep.
and I thank David Gilmore for all his LDS Prepper videos that he's been putting out there. But I have a question, and I'm totally confused. I used David Gilmore's process I added 2 observers today, 2 Heltec 3s, and I decided to just play with them and see what I could do. But I followed David Gilmore's approach in his video, and I ended up with 1.16, 1.16.0 as the observer. And in the process of doing that, it comes out as a room server stroke observer. Then on the second one, I found Guessamine.com, observer.guessamine.com, who has 1.17.2
Yep.
of the observer software. And when he walks you through the process, which I did with my second observer, he recommends that you put it in as a repeater/observer. So now I have one observer, which is considered a room server, and the other observer is considered a repeater. And if you zoom into Tokerville, you will see my 2 observers, one orange because it's a room, one green because it's a repeater, and I don't know what to do. Which of the 2 should I be using?
That's a good question. So just remember, like in Meshcore, every node has one of 3 roles: companion, repeater, or room server. And David could actually come off mute and explain in his process and his method what he's recommending, what type of node you use. For our observers in Washington County, we've mostly been recommending folks use a repeater, but turn off the repeat mode so that it's only an observer. It's put in observer mode where it doesn't repeat, but that way it just acts as a observer node, as a repeater that doesn't repeat, and it's easy to manage and deal with. On Guessamine's website, and I'm just going to go there real quick and show you. Make sure I get to the right place here. I think you said you're using like a Heltec V3, which is what I love. I love the Heltec V3. It's so easy to use.
Right. And
you
right there on
have
the
2
screen,
options.
Right.
Repeater or room server. If you wanted a room server that was also an observer, you would choose room server. If you wanted a repeater, that's what I recommend. And I also recommend turning off the repeat mode for the observer when you configure the observer. They've done a lot of work to this observer firmware now, where it actually is a lot easier to configure because it has a little website that it pops up, and you can connect to that website and just configure it in the website. I'm a little bit old school, I guess, in using the console. I prefer to flash my observer and then go straight to the console and I paste in all the commands, the set, commands that configure the observer the way I want it to. One of the last things I do is I set repeat to off, and I advert and reboot, and I'm done.
Okay, so I should turn off the repeater function of the observer in 17.1. What should I do in David Gilmore's mode? Turn it off as well?
Yeah, David, you want to let us know what you're thinking there?
Yes. We have more than adequate repeaters in our area, but we have very, very few room servers. And our strategy is each ward, at least as a minimum, has 1 room server. In an emergency, let's say, for example, that K6WDE is out of town and there's an emergency, cell towers go down, the bishop is set up on Meshcore, and he wants to get a message out to the ward. So he goes to the ward Meshcore channel and sends a message. Well, since Dave and his companion node is out of the area, he'd have to be a long way out of the area with the expansion of the network right now. But let's say, for example, you're in a bunker somewhere, okay? You don't get the signal, okay? When you come back, that message is already gone. But if the bishop puts that in a room server, that message is saved there. And as soon as you get back in the area, you'll get a notification that there's a message in that room server. So we're primarily using room servers instead of repeaters because we don't need more repeaters. But we do need a lot more room servers. So I would use the room server as a bulletin board for ecclesiastical leaders and make it so that just they can post in there. It's a marching orders location. Power has been out for 3 days. We're having a barbecue at the bishop's house because a bunch of people's freezers are down. That kind of a thing. Versus putting it into the ward private channel where you get 75 people commenting, okay, I'm going to bring over prime rib, I'm going to bring over chopsticks, chops or whatever, and then you miss the bishop's message, or if you're out of place. So either work, but we just found if we're going to use a device for an observer, and it has the capability to be a room server, that's what we're going to use it for.
Awesome. Thanks, David. So there's some good advice from David, and I think Dave, just make the right choice for your circumstance, and if you're needing to configure a room server in the way David's explaining, it's a great way to do it. If you want to not have a room server and not have people try to connect to it, just make a repeater, but turn off repeat if you don't need another repeater there. So
just use 17.1.2, I guess, and just make it as a repeater and turn it off.
That's what we've been doing because we don't need. Most people aren't using room servers the way that Dave was describing, but I think it's a great way that Dave was describing for a ward or a stake or an ERC group to have that. If they don't already have that resource, I think it's great advice. Otherwise, yeah, you could do either one using this Observer Flasher website. Right. So,
thank you.
But use the latest version, and then you don't have to update it as often.
And I do recommend using the Gesman.com website to set up those observers. That's the best website now that's available. It wasn't available when I made the video.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thank you both.
Thanks. Other questions out there?
We have one in the chat. I just want to point out to you, Adam. David is asking why he doesn't see other nodes in other areas of the U.S. when looking at the mwmesh.com. In other words, he sees Nevada, Utah, and Idaho, but how's it possible to see other nodes? Is that possible?
Yeah, so remember, like MW Mesh, and we follow the same philosophy on the Dixie Mesh website, is we're only showing traffic that's available over RF, right? So our observers are set up to listen to RF, and they're going to upload to the website only traffic that they can physically hear on RF. So we're not using internet connections to pull in data from other areas that we're not connected to. And that's why you're not seeing traffic maybe from Pacific Northwest or from Los Angeles or maybe from Boston, other large mesh networks. They're not physically connected to ours yet, and maybe eventually they will be, and we'll be able to see their traffic. So awesome. Good question, David.
Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
So one of the things that we've done over the last 8 months in developing our mesh up here is that we realized quickly that this is open to everybody who wants to, be on Meshcore, but not everybody on Meshcore is interested in helping the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in an emergency with emergency response communications. So to help better identify those people and to build the community, we've used a specific nomenclature for our devices, which has been really helpful in building relationships. We're really focused on building a community, and we're using Meshcore as the network for it. So we're not so much interested in building a network without a community. So our nomenclature is, if you want to be part, help with emergency response communications, the first thing you put in your name is ERC for your companion device. Then after that, we put in our call sign if we have a call sign. We're hoping that the majority of people who do this don't have call signs, because as long as the majority of the people are amateur radio operators, we're never going to get to the masses. But at any rate, if you do have a call sign, put in your call sign after ERC, first name, first initial of last name, and then your city. So my node is ERC space K5STF space David space G space Shelly, and I still had enough room to put a emoji of a tomato on there. So as people come in, they first of all, they know, first of all, I'm willing to help the church in emergency response. That's one way to build a relationship. Another one is they see that I'm an amateur radio operator. That builds a relationship. They see my first name, so I'm a real person. I'm not David S or David C. I'm David G, and I live in Shelley. So that makes it really convenient for us very quickly to build relationships and build the community in the area and identify people that we can reach out to in case of emergency.
Great. Thank you, David. Yeah. I also saw a question in the chat about mobile repeaters, positive and negatives. Just remember, like, Meshcore routing, message routing is really dependent on fixed repeaters. It knows, it learns, and uses a fixed repeater. Mobile repeaters can work and they can be successful, but you have to, as an operator, know what the trade-offs are and how you're using it. If I had a mobile repeater, for example, I wouldn't advert, because I don't want other people learning my mobile repeater in their path, and then I move and now their path is broken. Now, when I say broken, it's not completely broken, because their message will default to a flood, and then a new path will be discovered and it will work. But it is inefficient to always be flooding messages to discover new paths when somebody moves out of the way. So I wouldn't advert if I had a mobile repeater. I'd also, as an operator, accept the fact that I'm going to be always updating the path manually for my messages when I send them out, because when my repeater moves, so does the next repeater in the chain. It's going to be a different path. So yeah, my recommendation on a mobile repeater is, hey, just know what you're doing and what the trade-offs are. A better option for most people is, if you want something mobile, have a mobile antenna. Have a good mag mount or other 915 megahertz antenna on your vehicle, and connect your companion to that. And then you get the benefits of having a really good antenna and system that way. So Fred asks, how well will it scale when connected to these other networks? We'll see. We're learning. I know in Pacific Northwest they have a very large network, a lot of devices. They've worked through a lot of the growing pains, and once at some point, I assume we'll be connected to them. But through the fact that where our region is and where we're located, most of our conversations and texts are going to be pretty regional based. I'm not really worried about the network not scaling. It's just going to come down to us as operators staying abreast of new operating techniques or new protocols or configurations that are devised to handle large scale. So And Dan, I know you have a tag, and I also use a pocket device, and it's my favorite device to use. It is kind of the one trade off of not being able to hook an external end to it or antenna to it and things like that. And so having a mobile repeater can be desirous in that situation. But definitely just consider the trade-offs that you have in that kind of situation. And, I go between my office at work and my home office at home. And I have a repeater at my work and a repeater at my home. And I'm always having to update my path when I want to send a message and not have it flood. So, just keep that in mind. It's something you have to deal with. Other questions out there? Subregions. So the whole concept of region scoping is on its way. We've got different groups that have proposed different ways of doing region scoping and what the right nomenclature is for that. It's something that, everybody has to kind of buy into as a community and configure properly. We don't want to create a bunch of mini islands, RF islands out there because, somebody's configured one way and you go down the street and they're configured a different way and now we can't talk to each other. So there's still work being done. I think the nice thing for us is we've got a runway before we're going to cross that bridge. It's going to be a little while still, although this is moving pretty fast. But I think we've got time to let some of these other networks kind of work out what needs to happen from a subregion and a region scoping perspective, and then we could learn from their learnings and be informed and make the right decisions for our area. Well, Keith, an hour went by fast.
Yeah, it did. And we did get one pop up right there in the chat real quick. Just any details on Meshcore setup with the marathon. So we'll have a different discussion on that. But what we are doing, I'll tell you, is that the aid stations we think are going to be using companion nodes. We did just a kind of a basic run through test. It was very promising. However, it was with an external 900 megahertz antenna on a vehicle, which acted as a ground plane. It's going to be a little bit better to test it with, I think we're going to use the WIO tracker L1 Pro. Is that what we said?
Yep. That's what we're looking at.
So what we'll do for a test on that is we're going to go to each aid station GPS coordinate with that device, and we'll have somebody at the EOC, and we'll run some tests just with a single device, standalone, as if you were outside at your aid station. We'll send some messages, see how they get to the EOC. And I believe, Adam, you're saying that direct messaging is going to work better than creating a private channel, right?
Yeah, so what we're thinking, and we'll get this tested and validated before the event, but we're thinking that we'll have a shared channel for general traffic that we might want to send, but for guaranteed traffic, we'll use direct messages. So each aid station will send a direct message to the Meshcore net control, and the Meshcore net control then will send messages to the aid stations when they need to communicate with those specific aid stations. The reason for that is because Meshcore gives us an acknowledgement when a direct message is delivered. If we send a message and we don't get a delivery and we retry a few times and we don't get an acknowledgement that we know it's been delivered, we can drop back to the voice channel or alternate means of communication as necessary.
Yeah, and on the initial test, it was great. Every aid station having that antenna, again, external, that being the caveat, but every aid station was able to reach the network in our initial test, except for aid station 11. So that gives us an idea. And also, Adam has shown some websites that are fantastic for sort of laying out your network nodes, where they need to go and where good relay spots would be. So we'll put a repeater or two along the route to kind of enhance that once we do our final test. And the reason we're doing this, there are some people that are not, at first are not into the texting, but you have to understand with public safety, if you go to any modern police car, fire truck, or ambulance these days, you're going to see what they call, I think, Brett, I believe it's a CAD, right? That's at least the term I've heard.
Yeah,
So
it's
that
a
computer in that
computer-aided
vehicle,
dispatch.
there you go. So that a lot of that traffic that your emergency service folks, your public safety folks are doing is digital text traffic over those computers. This is no different. All it's doing is freeing up that channel. If you've listened to the 8 station channel, when stations begin to call in for supplies, it starts to get a little bit busy and a little bit convoluted. And we're hoping to have a little bit better management on it this year, in the sense that some of that 8 station supply traffic will go to this text chain, leaving the channel open for emergencies and runner pickup traffic. So that's kind of the goal. I think it's actually going to be a great way to merge in some new technology. So there'll be a little bit of a learning curve. This is our test year, so we'll see how it goes. And then there's another, just move on. There's another chat question there about how do you know what channels are available? Adam, do you want to comment on that?
Yeah, it's one of those things where it's only helpful to have a hashtag channel if there's other people in the channel to talk to. But how do you tell them about it? There's a couple of ways. First off, you can just ask in the public channel. You can say, hey, is there a channel about this topic or dealing with this? And hopefully somebody can answer and say, yeah, there is. Or you can even create your own. You can create a hashtag channel and say, hey, everybody, I'm talking about cats over here in the cats channel. But there are some bots out there on the network, and you could go to the hashtag bot channel and just type in the command channels, and your local bot will typically respond to you with a list of common channels for that area that exist. You might not get any response, and that means there's no bot listening to you there. But for Dixie Mesh, if you go to our website, dixiemesh.com, and go to the how-to section, there's a list of common channels in our area that are being used. And the last way I would say is you can go to the analyzer tool, the live.dixiemesh.com, and click on the channels link, and it'll show you some of the channels that have been configured in that tool. But that's not all the channels. There's more channels than I know about. I can't tell you what they all are because they're encrypted, but there's a lot of channels out there. Hopefully that gives you some sense of what to do.
All right, cool. So anybody else have any other questions? I don't know, Brett, if you want to wrap things up or how you want to go out tonight, but we're kind of there.
Yeah,
at our hour.
Adam, you're freaking awesome, dude. I appreciate what you're doing for the ham community down here, and I think it's good what's happening here with digital communications, and so I hope you stay involved. I know you'll be available for people if
Yep.
they have questions. So if you have questions, he's not hard to reach. Reach out to Adam. His call sign is W0AKO, Whiskey Zero Alpha Kilo Oscar. And he's always been willing to reach out and talk to us and teach us and help us embrace this newer technology. And I know, don't get me wrong, a wire and CW is awesome. It will get you there. But newer technology, digital technology, Meshcore is easier, number one, more accessible, number two, and more widely available. Because how many people do you know that will actually take the time and effort to learn CW. It takes an expert to, or somebody who's super dedicated to learn that. Meshcore mesh texting across RF is more widely available. People that don't have to dedicate a super abundant amount of time to it will be attracted to it. And so I'm not saying this is the future of ham radio, but I am saying this is a part of ham radio that we need to be involved in. Dave, K6WDE, you've got your hand up. Go ahead, sir.
Oh, you're on mute, Dave. There you go.
You can hear me okay, I think?
Yep, hear you.
Hey, I missed the meeting last week, and it sounds like it was chock full, and I'll go definitely look at it. We get lots of questions from people who say, "What should I buy?" You know, what we must have here in SGU, the unit, we must have some kind of a, or I would suggest we put together some kind of a recommended package of what you could buy as a companion, perhaps as a repeater, as an observer, maybe just a kind of handy checklist that, you know, we could post and say, hey, here's 2 or 3 things that we think you could work as with a companion. If you're more interested in repeaters, here's, you know, a couple things that you might want to look at. So that people have a rough idea. Maybe we already covered this, I'm not really sure, but it would help, you know, zero in things when we're all getting inundated by drinking with the fire hose.
Yeah, great feedback there, Dave. We have a little bit of guidance on the website, but it's not opinionated enough, and we need to do that and provide some information. I'd also say the groups.io message board for the Dixie Amateur Radio Club is super helpful to go in and ask questions and talk about these topics as well. And between that resource, the dixiemesh.com resource, and maybe even the club website, we could get some links and some guidance for people, because I think you're right. Like being more opinionated on, you know, here's what I'd start with, and then once people get started, they can explore from there. So good feedback.
I just want to add 2 things too. We could even look, and we'll talk, you know, off camera here a little bit later, but we could even talk about maybe setting up some sort of a workshop. Maybe, you know, again, we got to see how much time everybody has to devote. I don't want to commit anybody to anything. But you know, that's a possibility of maybe doing a workshop. And I will just mention too that just in case though anybody here is going to be involved in the marathon, no question about the marathon, we're going to buy these companions for every aid station, but we're going to offer when we're done for those participants to actually purchase that device at a discount, so you can have your own. We'll buy new ones for next year since the technology does change, and that gives that person the option to use it. If they don't want it or they have their own, we'll offer it up to general club membership to purchase after the marathon's over. So just be aware that we'll have some of those available. You know, there'll be a small discount on them.
Any other questions for Adam as we wrap it up here? Okay. Again, Adam, you're awesome. I love what you do for ham radio in Southern Utah. I very much appreciate you spending your time tonight with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Any concluding comments you have, anything like that?
Yeah, just like you said, I'm very happy to help and willing. So feel free to get in touch with me. Great ways to do it would be on the Dixie Amateur Radio Club's groups.io message board, because then other people can benefit from it. You can go to dixiemesh.com and use the contact link there, or just drop me an email, and that's easy. Adam@w0ako.com.
Okay. Bonanza.
Yeah.
And everyone, I thank you guys for coming in tonight. I think this was a super cool tech time, and I appreciate everyone for participating. So I'm going to sign off. I'm going to thank Adam. I'm going to thank Keith. I'm going to thank everyone who had questions and comments tonight. And we will let it go at that. So 73,
Oh,
everyone.
and